These are instructions to assemble my octagonal advent calendar. I'm going to start with the base pieces. Now this is Cricut craft board and I've cut out 4 in this shape and I've painted around the edges, both the back and the front of each one of these pieces. And these are the boxes. The box bases are all identical. I've just put decorative paper on one side and on the top. I've chosen 3 different combinations. Each box has its base piece and then the decorative panels that go here and here. And if you notice, there's a little hole on your base piece and throughout these 2 decorative panels. Now this is just 2 pieces of cardstock that I've glued together. We're going to start by gluing these pieces on to the top of our box. To assemble the boxes, you've got your main piece with the 3 panels. We're just folding down on the score lines. And then you've got the smaller piece. And this is the top piece with the 2 panels for decoration. The middle score line, I'm just folding back and forth. And then I'm folding down on all the score lines. And the 2 little triangles at each end, like so. This is the direction in which my box fits together. I'm just going to put glue on that tab and position it so that the cut edge from this piece goes along the score line of that tab. I'm going to put glue along this tab and I'm just going to fit that piece along the score line of the tab. And then this piece becomes our bottom. These 2 parts are the sides that come upwards and this part is the front of the box. I'm just going to put glue on the tabs on that little skinny piece, and those get adhered to each side, like so. You want to put glue on these tabs on each side, bring those up. And now the lid, so you just want to close your box. We're just putting a little bit of glue on each of those triangle pieces on each side. Pull that flap downwards, like so, and then pull the sides of your lid in. And there's your box. So you have to make 24 of these. Next we have this piece. Now this is just a simple rectangle with score lines. You just want to pull down on all the score lines. And the thinner one at the end is going to be the tab. Glue that together and that becomes a tower that's the center of our advent calendar. Next we have these pieces. You're going to need 6 of these pieces, but you're going to work on them in pairs, so 2 by 2. And you're going to be constructing something that looks like this. Each tier is comprised of 8 of these pieces. So for these pieces, all you have to do is pull down on these score lines all along the edge and the 2 in the center, like so. These pieces fits in to the slots that are on the base, and the next one fits in beside it and all the way around. Normally I use art glitter glue or barely art glue, but for this project I'm actually going to use Beacon 3-in-1. I'm just going to put glue on one of the larger panels and glue it to another one of the pieces like this. Now the reason why I'm using Beacon 3-in-1 is because I want a little bit of maneuverability. I don't want my glue to stick too quickly. When this glue dries, it actually strengthens the cardstock. So I'm just going to insert that in there and push it in as far as it'll go, and at the same time I'm pushing in the middle section here, this trapeze, like so. Then I'm going to grab my next piece. Now this one I'm fitting right here, so I'm just going to put glue along this side. Notice my tabs are folded inwards. Glue it to neighbor, make sure they're exactly over one another, and then slide it in between the next one. And I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm down to the last piece, so I'm just going to put glue on both sides of the panel. I'm going to insert it. I'm just gluing it to the panels on either side. Just slipping the tabs underneath, like so. So I just want to flip it over. I'm just going to grab my boxes just to make sure everything fits and that I've glued them properly. Next, I'm going to take the piece that goes on top and just slip those tabs through the top piece as well. I've got the top and the bottom piece attached to the walls of my advent calendar. I'm just going to put glue on all these tabs. I'm just pressing them into place. And then I'm going to flip my box over, and with my bone folder, I'm going to go and I'm going to press down on all those tabs just to make sure that the glue is nicely distributed. So now that one side is done, the bottom is done, you want to do the top. So you do exactly the same thing. And then again, going in with my bone folder and spreading that glue. And now it's just a question of assembling all my layers. I'm starting with one of those pieces of craft board where I've painted the edges, and I've just glued one of my tiers on top of it. Then I glued another one of these panels on top of it, and then a third tier. Now I'm just going to put glue on this piece. So once I've covered it with glue, I'm going to take my main tower piece, and I'm just making sure that the edges meet. I'm doing that all the way around. And then I'm just going to go in with my tower again. So this piece eventually will remain in the center, so I just want to make sure that it fits. Turn it upside down so that the layer that I just glued is on the bottom. And I'm just going with a bone folder, just spreading all that glue, going into all the different little cubbies and making sure that that glue is spread around nicely. I'm just going to put glue on the craft board layer, and then I'm taking the next tier, and again I'm placing it so that the edges meet up exactly. Going in with my bone folder, I'm just supporting it a little bit with my hand as I go and making sure that I'm spreading that glue nicely. So I'm going to put glue on my last piece of craft board. Do the same thing as the last layer. Make sure that all those edges meet nicely. And this time I can flip it upside down again and spread that glue. Now I've just taken my tower piece and I'm just inserting in the center. Okay, so this was getting too big to work on the conventional way. So we're looking at it from the side. I have these silver brass and I'm just poking them into the holes on the panels at the front. And then opened its little feet like so. And there's my little box. And I'm just gonna insert it. So let's assemble the train pieces. This is the locomotive piece. We're just gonna fold down on all the score lines. So these are the pieces that decorate the front of the train. I'm just gluing down the decorative pieces to put this piece together. Fold this piece upwards. So we're just putting glue on these tabs on each side. And then just pull up both sides of the train. Then you want to put glue on these two tabs. Then glue on these two tabs and tuck them inside. And glue on this tab. And then you want to put glue on these tabs. And the two layers for the roof. And these two pieces go on the front, but we're going to put the chimney together first. So So that's this piece. I'm taking the piece that cut out of this piece, and I'm just using it to adorn the center of my chimney. And next I'm just going to put the little decorative pieces on my little smokestack. And then you just fold down on all the score lines. And the tabs on the very end get folded upwards. So you have this little tiny triangle and then tab at the side. Just want to fold that together. And just keep going around, putting glue on that triangle and on the tab and joining it to its neighbor. Now we're in the last panel. I glue on both tabs, glue on both triangles. You can go from the bottom and just make sure that all your seams are glued down properly. You have these two panels that have the cutout for the smokestack. Glue them together. You want to temporarily stick those tabs inwards and just fit it in the cutout that's in your panel. And then fold those tabs backwards. Now I'm just putting glue underneath those tabs. Put glue on the base and glue it to the front of my train. My little open wagon. My decorative panels are going to be glued on. Fold down on all the score lines. And then I'm just going to put glue on these two tabs and bring the cut line up to the score line on both sides, like so. Then I'm going to put glue on the tabs at the other end, fold them inside. I'm going to temporarily pull these tabs to the outside. I'm just going to put glue on one tab and then press down firmly, and I'm just reinforcing all edges the exact same way. This is the roof of the wagon. So I'm just going to glue down those 4 panels. Now that the panels are on, just put glue on the tabs that are on each side and bring up the sides, and then on the other side. You can just tuck in the top like that, the 3 pieces of our train. For the front of our little locomotive, there's this piece with the decorative fender. Fold it down on all the score lines. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on that triangle between the score line and the edge. Glue those 2 pieces together, and then do the same thing on the other side. Glue between the score line and the edge. Fold it down to the piece right beside it. And then you want to put a little bit of glue on the tabs, both sides, and glue those down. And then I'm just going to put glue on the back of this piece. I'm just putting glue along the edge and gluing it to my locomotive. So now we're going to work on the undercarriage and the wheels of the train. So this one is the one for the locomotive. And these 2 are exactly identical. Then we have these long strips with a hole in it. You just want to fold down on all those score lines. And then you're going to put just a little bit of glue just from the score line to the end on the smallest section. And then you're going to fold your piece over, and that's going to create a little box. And you have 6 of these to do. Now I have these pieces, lots of these in the file because I want to double them all up. So each one gets adhered to an identical piece. Once all your layers are doubled up, you should have 4 for each part of the train. So the top of this has the score lines. You want to actually glue 2 layers to the bottom, making sure that you're gluing the holes on top of one another. And all this does is just reinforces this piece. We're going to do that for all of those triangular shaped pieces. On all of these pieces, there's 2 rectangular score lines with a little circle in the center. You just want to put foam tape on either side of that little circle within that scored rectangle. And then we're going to take one of these pieces. There are 24 of them that we've glued together back to back. You're going to take one of them just to reinforce this piece. So you're going to put it in between those 2 layers, and then making sure it's glued directly over that little circle that's cut out. And then I have these little tiny brads. I'm going to put my brad through that hole, and I'm going to take another one of those doubled up rectangles with the hole in the center and put it through. And then I'm going to open my brad. So you don't want to squeeze your brad too tightly. Make sure that it's relatively free flowing. And then you're going to glue just the lowest panel down to your foam tape. So I'm removing the backing on my foam tape, and I'm placing this rectangle over that scored rectangle. And so we're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. I removed the backing on my foam tape, and I'm just going to carefully adhere just that rectangle. I'm just going to put glue on the bottom of my train piece and center this piece over, glue it to the bottom of my train piece. So here are my wheels. 2 layers of cardstock with an adhesive vinyl center. I'm just putting glue on that little rectangle, gluing my wheel, doing the same for the back. And then I'm just going to put glue on the other side, those 2 rectangles. Grab 2 more wheels and glue them down. And you have to repeat that for all 3 parts of the train. I'm reinforcing this hole by adding this piece, just gluing it over inside the panel, inside my little box. Then I'm taking a brad and I'm just going to insert it in the hole. Take another one of those rectangles with the hole in it and opening my brad up. I place that rectangle over the foam tape. Do that for the other one. I'm taking my doubled up rectangle with the hole in the center, adding it to this little box, making sure the holes overlap exactly so it's on the interior of the box. And then I'm putting a little brad through the hole, grabbing another one of those pieces, opening my brad. Then I'm taking the liner off my foam tape, taping down that rectangle. Then I put glue on the bottom of my little train and just position this piece right over. And I'm just going to grab 4 of my little wheels, glue on this rectangle, and adhere my wheel. Another wheel, adhere the wheels to the other side as well. And now I have to work on my locomotive. So we do that again. So now that we've finished our little train, we're going to work on the railroad tracks. Now we have one piece that is the actual track, and then I thought it would add a little bit of interest to elevate the tracks themselves. So I have 2 pieces that go all the way around, but I also have these other pieces, and the reason why they're cut up into little pieces is because it takes up a lot less cardstock. So your top layer is going to be the continuous one. I've got my right side down on the mat, and I'm just gluing down 1 complete layer, and then I have 4 more pieces for the second complete layer, and I'll just make it a little bit thicker. So as you can see, there's several layers that have been adhered to create those tracks. These are the 2 decorative panels that I'm going to put on top of my advent calendar, and then I'm going to adhere the train track, center them as best I can. All this will get glued to the top of my calendar. And so for the presents, these are the pieces for the presents, and just fold down on all the score lines. And you want to fold this tab over. I'm going to put glue on it. Fold the other end over to that tab, and then you want to fold down and put glue on the top tab. And then you want the same end to fold down. So we're going to start with both sides here. And you see how this goes from the top to the bottom. You want this one to go from the top to the bottom. So just put glue on that tab and try to make sure that it's at a right angle when you fold it, so it makes a nice little cube. I'm using a little piece of red line tape. You could use hot glue. I'm taping down my ribbon. And then just tie a little bow at the top. Now I'm constructing the final box. This final box actually inserts itself into the center of my advent calendar, and it's the piece that has the Christmas tree on it. This is the base of my box. I'm just folding down on all the score lines, like so. These are the walls of my box. Now, I made it out of cardstock, but I wanted it to be sturdy. So what I did is I put panels on the inside. So between each score line, there's one of these panels. I haven't put the last one on because that's where the seam is going to go. It adds a little bit of rigidity to the box, but it doesn't prevent it from sliding in and out of the center where it's supposed to fit. Now this is one of the panels that goes on the interior. It's just easier to put it on this way. So this is the tab where I'm going to join my box. So I'm going to be putting the glue on the outside of this tab, but right now I'm just lining the inside with this piece. So this again is the piece to strengthen my box. So I'm just putting glue not only on the tab, but on that extra piece as well. So this is the bottom of my box. So these tabs have to go inside the box. And now I'm just putting glue on those tabs. I'm just gluing them in. I'm just tucking all those tabs into the box. And then I'm going to push from the inside and make sure that they are all properly positioned. So this is the lid to our box. I'm just folding down on all the score lines, glue the triangle in between those two panels. And I'm going to bring the cut line to the score line and do that all the way around with all those triangles. So now I've temporarily folded these tabs back. I'm just gluing down any one of them. I'm just using my bone folder and I'm spreading that glue. I'm just going to go all the way around and do the same thing with all of them. And there's our lid. Next, the rosette Christmas tree. That's the topper for our final box. This Christmas tree was heavily inspired by Anne Melville at Positively Papercraft. So the Christmas tree is made with levels of rosettes that are stacked from the largest to the smallest. So in the file, not only are the levels color coded, but they're also broken up into size. So each level increases by 1/8 of an inch, but the folds remain the same at 1/4 of an inch. The larger levels have 3 tiers. The smaller levels go all the way down to only 1. So what you need to do is just fold back and forth on those score lines in an accordion fold. And next, you're going to join your panels. The easiest way to do this is to put glue in the V-fold of the very last groove. Take your next panel and insert the first V in between. And then fold your accordion back up again. We're going to do that again. I'm just going to fold up. In the very last fold that forms a V, I'm going to put some glue, and then I'm going to grab the other end, join them in that groove, and it should form a ring like this. We have 6 circles, the exact same size. I'm gluing 3 layers together, then gluing the 3 others together, and I just did that because I want them nice and thick. Then I'm taking my accordion fold, and I'm just pulling at the top until it goes flat, and I'm going to push it in the center, make it as small as I can possibly make it. And I'm going to grab one of my circles and I'm going to put some glue in the center, and I'm going to place my rosette on top of that panel and on top of the glue, making sure that I've fanned out my rosette properly. And then I'm going to put more glue, and I'm going to grab my other circle and lay it on top. As always, take proper precautions when you're using hot glue to not burn yourself. So we're going to end up layering in sequence like this from the largest to the smallest, and that's going to form our Christmas tree. So I'll take my largest piece. I'm just putting glue in the center rosette, centering my next one, and I'm going to just do that with all the layers until I reach the top. For the star that I put on top of the tree, I cut out 4 stars with score lines down the center. Just to make it easier to fold it in half, I just used my Cricut scraper. Then it makes it much easier to fold it in half like so. So I did that for all 4 pieces. Then I put glue on half of the back side of one of my stars. I grab the other star and glue them together. Then I put glue on just half and glue those two together. I'm just going to put glue on both sides this time. Glue my last piece of star to the others. And I came to the last one. It's tiny. I pierced the hole on the top and I just put my star through this hole. And I'm going to put some glue on the bottom to make sure that it stays put. So I'm just going to glue the tree to the top, the box top. I've cut out a piece of chipboard as my base. It's my only piece of chipboard for this project, and I've painted the edges of it in silver so that it will coordinate with the rest. And then I'm just going to stick down 2 layers to decorate it. And then I'm going to adhere my advent calendar to the bottom. The last step for my advent calendar was putting the numbers on all the little boxes. I've cut out all my numbers in triplicate because I wasn't sure what colors I was going to use, and I knew that I wanted to do a layered look anyways. So I was able to use the scraps from cutting out all the boxes and the pieces for my advent calendar to create the numbers. I'm currently gluing 3 layers of my numbers together. The top layer is going to be determined by the colors that are on the box that I'm doing. So in this case, I have the light blue and the dark blue. The number is going to be in silver. So I'm just gluing my pieces together, making sure that the silver layer is the top layer. And then I'm going to use my little template. I'm positioning it over the matte layers, and I'm positioning my 10 within that opening. 3 sizes for the templates. The smallest cutout is for the single digit. The middle size is going to be from 10 to 19, and the largest size is from 20 to 24. I'm just going to continue this process for all 24 boxes. Now that I've put all my numbers on, I've actually decorated the top, and I've put little brads to attach my train together, and I've positioned my gifts.